Ready?
We are ready. I'm going
Okay.
to spotlight you.
Okay, well, thank you so much. Hello, everyone. I'm Barbara Lane, the president of the OLLI board, and welcome to our winter community open house. Mother Nature has certainly provided us with an appropriate backdrop today. It's absolutely beautiful out there. I want to say that it's great to see such a nice mix of familiar and new faces. In just a few minutes, some of our amazing lecturers will let us know what they have in store for us for the winter semester. But before they do, I just want to say a few words to those of you who are new to OLLI or are thinking of becoming OLLI members. I always like to make the point that when you join OLLI, you're not just joining an organization, you're joining a community of lifelong learners. Our community is fueled by dedicated volunteers who participate in over a dozen committees and our Mentoring for Success program for BCC students. It's the energy, creativity, and lifetime's worth of experience that each of us brings to it that makes our OLLI the dynamic community it's become. So I encourage you to seriously consider volunteering. You can obtain a list of our committees by going on our website or contacting the OLLI office. Although I should note that the office will be closed for the last week of December. We do that every year. If you'd like to volunteer, but you're not sure which committee would be right for you, the office can get you in touch with Shelley Sturman, a board member and our volunteer coordinator. She'll be delighted to help you find just the right fit. It's a wonderful way to contribute to the continued growth and success of our OLLI. It's also a great way to get to know your fellow OLLI members. I can tell you from my own experience that volunteering for OLLI has led me to form some wonderful friendships over the last few years. So please consider getting involved. Berkshire OLLI needs you. And now that I've made my pitch, I'll turn it over to she who keeps it all together, and that would be our wonderful executive director, Megan Wilden. Megan?
Thank you so much, Barbara. It's great to be here, and we have some amazing guests today, our winter instructors who are come from a wide variety of backgrounds. And one of the most amazing and wonderful things about OLLI is that it is really volunteer driven and powered. We have over 200 volunteers who create the classes, who write the newsletter, who serve in many different ways. And one of the most important ways they serve is as instructors. All of our instructors are volunteers, and we're so grateful to them for sharing their wisdom and knowledge and insight with us. So we're going to hear just a little bit from most of the instructors from the winter today. We're going to go through them. They're each going to speak for 3 minutes or less, so you're just going to get a taste of the class. And then at the end of the presentation, we can answer any questions folks might have. And the first one I'd like to introduce is Howard Arkans, who will be teaching the beloved OLLI tradition at this point, a class called Tuesdays at the Movies, which is usually held in the winter and has a different a theme each year. This year it's American Auteurs. That's going to be at 3:30 p.m. Howie is a former president of OLLI. He's a longtime teacher of the Tuesdays at the Movies class. I believe it's 11 years now. And he is also an extraordinary lover and teacher of Italian cooking classes. And we can't wait until he is able to offer those in person again. So please join me in welcoming Howie, and you can turn your video on.
It's on.
Oh, there you are. Wonderful.
Okay, you can see me and hear me. Okay, well, Tuesday at the Movies, this year, we're going to talk about American Auteurs. The concept of the auteur, of the filmmaker, is artist and author of his or her own works. That began in Paris in the late 50s and early 60s where filmmakers and critics reacted to the industrialization of filmmaking in the United States and Europe. The French word auteur literally translates to the English author. Written within this context of cinema, the word auteur is used to describe a director who exerts a high level of control across all aspects of his film. Auteur directors generally have a distinctive style from film to film and often fill other roles besides directing, including writing, editing, and sometimes even acting in their own films. We'll screen 5 films of American directors who could be labeled auteurs. Obviously, there are many more American auteurs. Wikipedia lists about 200 of them, some more famous than others. But I've picked 5 whom I feel are independent auteurs, perhaps not as famous as Spike Lee and Woody Allen, but are emblematic of American film. We'll also include 2 women auteurs who fit this description. We'll screen, starting January 19th, Night on Earth. We'll screen that the 19th and the 26th. It's 5 short stories, really, all connected in a way by the auteur Jim Jarmusch. So we'll see those over 2 weeks. February 2nd, we'll see Moonrise Kingdom, a Wes Anderson film. February 9th, Frances Ha, a Noah Baumbach film. February 16th, Lost in Translation, Sofia Coppola's film. And February 23rd, Lady Bird, Greta Gerwig's film. The course will work by me introducing the film and the auteur each week. We'll then screen the film over Zoom, which actually worked pretty well this summer. And then you'll answer the questions I proposed to you. Then we'll discuss the film, answering your questions and criticisms. It's not quite the same as Winter at the Triplex on Tuesday mornings in the past, but it was fun in the summer. And hopefully we'll have fun and education Tuesday at the movies, Tuesday afternoons at 3:30. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Howie. And I just have to say that I sat in a little bit on some of those classes, which I never had a chance to before. And the interaction around the quizzes afterwards and stuff was just really a lot of fun. And I see why so many people love to sign up for that class. So next, I'd like to introduce Jamie Keller. Jamie is teaching a class on Latin poetry Mondays at 11, where did she go? Oh, there she is, at 11:30. She holds a master's in ancient Greek from SUNY Albany and is a retired Latin teacher who still loves to teach and enjoy Latin. And her classes are usually small but mighty, and she encourages people of any comfort level with Latin to join her. Jamie?
Yes, salvete omnes. Hello, everybody, and most especially Latin lovers. I'm here for the 6th year. That's amazing. 6 years teaching Latin. So that's a real tribute to the OLLI community. And this year, given the State of the Union, I decided to go very light with Latin poetry, subjects love, because you can't do poetry without doing love, leisure, because we all have a lot of time on our hands these days, and mythology, because you can't do Latin without touching mythology. Your only requirement is that you've had some encounter with Latin at some point in your life. So don't worry, we'll get through it together. We'll get through the poetry and we'll talk about the words and the music and the lyrics and how absolutely beautiful poetry is. So we'll get through it together. So first up is love. And we'll be reading the poetry, translating, I should say, the poetry of Catullus, 3 poems on page 48 of the book, which I'll show you in a minute. Page 50, a short martial epigram, 2 lines, and page 52, Horace, where you'll find yourself in a bed of roses. So the text is, I'm holding it up, the Cambridge Latin Anthology. You can find it on Amazon, new, but I suggest used. And I just found out about a site called abebooks.com, and they have a ton of them used. So I would appreciate it if you would do that. But again, no worries. If you're having trouble, read them in English. So what you would want to do is type in the first line of the poem and it will come up in both Latin and English. I just want you to enjoy this. So if the Latin is overwhelming, read it in English and we'll get through the poetry. If you have any questions, contact the office and they'll be happy to give you my email and I would be happy to answer any questions. And finally, don't worry about pronunciation. We're going to listen to the experts, not me, read the Latin in meter, which is really fun too. So come and enjoy and let's get into some good fun together. So I hope I see some of you. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jamie. And of course, one of the wonderful things about OLLI classes is there's no tests, no grades. It's just learning for the love of learning. And that goes for Latin too. So next up, I'd like to introduce Doug Robbins. Doug is the founder of Xenon Media, a content provider for advertisers. He started and grew a film, video, VFX, and animation production company for over 30 years and worked with most major ad agencies and Fortune 500 companies. But these days, what he really loves to do is make photographs. So please join me in welcoming Doug.
Thank you very much. So I want to try something different this semester. I hope that it succeeds in a COVID world that we're living in. For 6 weeks, I want to invite a different master photographer to speak to us in Zoom. And I want to keep the course small. We'll cover categories like wildlife, landscape, portrait photography. I've actually reached out to a number of directors that have done photographic work over the years and mentioned to them the idea of doing this, and they were thrilled. As I said, I want to keep the course small so that there can be interaction with the photographer that's guested each week. If time permits, what I want to also do is introduce a photographer in the same genre, but with a different style and a different approach. My goal here is to learn how to capture images with a different creative understanding. My hope is that each one of these photographers that I bring will either explain in a short period of time a different technique or a way of approaching the genre that they have expertise in, or dissecting a specific photograph so that we can understand what their photographic journey was. And then at the end of the class, we will review the pictures that the students have taken. What I experienced last time was that what we do during the course of the week is we'll upload pictures, I'll post them in a website, and as a group, we'll explore what worked and what didn't work. We had a blast earlier this year. My students continued working with us well into COVID, and I'm looking forward to this, both from my learning and listening to what other professional photographers have in areas of expertise, and to share with photographers who want to learn. This is not a course that you have to be an expert. You can be a beginner, you can be advanced. What I hope is that everyone who does take this photographic journey has a camera that can capture images using manual settings, and that's all. If you're new to photography, this is a perfect course. If you're an advanced photographer, this is a great journey. Anyway, that's my pitch.
Fantastic. Thank you, Doug. And you may be wondering, especially if you looked at the list of classes early, you may be wondering, wait a sec, was there a photography class? And we did sneak it in a little late, but it is there on our website, and Ray put it in too, and somebody's already said they want to sign up. They sent me a private message. So That's exciting. But it's on our website, and Ray put the email, the web address, so you can go read more about the class. It is a limited class, so if you're interested, you'll want to sign up soon for sure. So thank you, Doug.
Thanks,
And
Megan.
next, you bet. Next, I'd like to introduce Dr. Mary. Wait, no, I'm sorry, I skipped Kate. Okay, so I'm going to do Marilyn and then I'll do Kate. Sorry, is that okay, Marilyn?
Mary Lou, yes.
Mary Lou, I'm sorry. Yeah, okay, sorry about that. And so Dr. Mary Lou Heissen is teaching for OLLI for the first time, and we are very lucky to have her. She is a senior consultant to the World Bank and UNICEF and a former professor on childhood development. She is teaching a very timely class entitled Children and COVID-19 Impact, Interventions, and Supports on Fridays at 1:30. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Heissen.
Thank you. After Jill Biden's Wall Street Journal op-ed, I think I probably should be trotting the doctor out quite often. Like hers, it's in education and child development. Anyway, I'm very happy to be here and to have a few minutes to tell you a little bit about this class, Children and COVID-19 Impacts, Interventions, and Supports. And as everyone knows, the impact of the pandemic on education, on children's health and physical and emotional well-being, their families' well-being, all of these impacts are likely to be long-lasting in a variety of ways. But the pandemic has also prompted some pretty promising interventions and supports that may help children and families now and also in the future. So each of the 6 class meetings will offer participants access to research insights, practical resources. I'll be providing online resources, everything from ideas for digital media that might be used to articles that are accessible, user-friendly, the viewpoints of experts. Some of my colleagues are delighted to do some cameo discussions, and I hope rich opportunities for discussion among participants about local, national, and international perspectives. I very much want this course to be responsive to participants' needs. So right from the start, I want to find out what course members want to learn more about. For example, what are children's perceptions and misperceptions about the pandemic and about its effects? What can grandparents do to stay more connected with and supportive of their grandchildren and others in their family? How can we ensure that children's learning continues well, even under some very, very challenging conditions? How can we deal with our own anxieties so that we can help all children thrive? Those are some of the things that we will be thinking about and much more. Thank you for the opportunity to tell a bit about this class.
Thank you so much, Dr. Heissen. I think that sounds like a really fascinating class, as of course all of them do, which is one of the wonderful things about OLLI. Next up, I'd like to introduce Dr. Catherine Kidd. Dr. Kidd is a retired professor and one of our most popular OLLI instructors who can make almost any topic fascinating. I should take that almost out, actually. She has taught OLLI courses on contemporary Russia, immigration policy, the 20th century philosopher Hannah Arendt, and Congress and the Civil War, women in politics, and more subjects. This semester, she's going to be teaching about global public health, and it's going to be fascinating, I know. Welcome.
Okay, thank you, Megan. I'm really looking forward to teaching this class. So going back to my background in international affairs, and global public health is something that's been of great interest to me for many years, both through the teaching I did and through work I did in Africa, Latin America, and Russia. But with the pandemic and the politicization of the role of the CDC and the World Health Organization, I felt it was really important to be thinking about what happened when these international public health organizations were really working well. And so in the second half of the 20th century, there were a number of breakthroughs, the Breakthrough Campaign to eradicate smallpox, which was successful over a very short period of time. Also, the eradication of river blindness, elephantitis, rinderpest disease in Africa, which if you don't know what those are, you can check them out, but not diseases important in the United States, but very, very important in Africa and especially in West Africa. But the AIDS crisis created a crisis for international global health. And that was at one point, there were global health leaders who said, we will just have to let 25 million Africans die of AIDS. And people were appalled by that. So there have been many new players who've come in the last 30 years. And instead of having 25 million people die from AIDS, instead, the cost of AIDS medication has gone down to about $100 a year from $10,000 a year. And not just in the developed world, but in Africa and Southeast Asia in particular, there are people who are living healthy, long lives with AIDS medication. So in this class, we'll be looking at some of those amazing successes in global public health. We'll be looking at some of the challenges. We'll be looking at the factors that made for the successes in the past and how we can think about getting those back on the ground floor. And I'd like to give a shout out to the Berkshires here. One of the really important players in this arena is Dr. Paul Farmer, who has a PhD in anthropology and in medicine. He teaches at Harvard Medical School. And he was born and grew up in a school bus in North Adams. So one of the most important people in terms of just rethinking the policy arena around global public health is a Berkshire native, and we'll be learning a bit about him and the organization that he leads and some of his groundbreaking forms of treatment and ideas about policy for the future. So I'm really looking forward to teaching the class and look forward to having you join me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kidd. That sounds like another extremely timely class, as is the next one we're about to hear about, and that is the class on Ruth Bader Ginsburg that will be co-taught by Professors Tom Garrity and Virginia O'Leary, who will have as well a number of special guests. Dr. O'Leary is a retired professor and frequent OLLI instructor, also a favorite. She also serves on the OLLI board and chairs the Social Science Curriculum Committee. Dr. Garrity is a recently retired college president and constitutional law professor, among many other things. And we're very grateful to both of them for putting on this timely class. And I'm not sure how to spotlight both of you at the same time. Oh, wait, I think you can do that now. All right, well, you are Tom. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it.
Okay.
You are.
I can.
There you go.
I can start while Ginny's coming on. So some of us are volunteers and some are conscripts. And Ginny conscripted me to do Ruth Bader Ginsburg after I did a constitutional law course that Kate and others took. and Ginny helped with. And we're going to look at the wonderful life and career of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I don't really have to say all that much. I hope we'll come to a sense of what kind of a woman, and a girl, and a woman, and a litigator, and law professor, and then a judge and justice she was. Her very, to me, curious and interesting combination of traditionalism or conservatism, inspired by her own mother and her husband, who seems like he was such a loving and supportive guy, and the kind of feminist, which I think Gina is going to speak to. We're going to have a number of guests where I'm still gathering them and working with Ginny on that. Adam Liptak, the New York Times Supreme Court reporter, a friend of mine, Aziz Huq, who worked with me at the Brennan Center, who was one of her favorite clerks on the Supreme Court of the United States. Her biographer, Jane Sharon DeHart, who's almost Ruth's age and retired as a professor of history out at UC Santa Barbara. And two of the people, her co-founder of the Women's Litigation Project for the ACLU, Women's Rights Project, and one of the women who succeeded her and litigated women's rights. So a bunch of guests. I'm hoping that'll make it easier on me and Ginny. And some reading, so we can sort of keep up with her. I'm going to pick out, with Ginny's help, several of her major cases to really look at them in detail. She's an interesting writer, very, very, no literary flair usually, just very straight ahead, insistent lawyering. And Ginny, can you pop up and say something? I don't see you yet.
Oh, well.
There you are. Yeah, now
I'm here. One knows that one has aged successfully, at least up to this point, when one is on board to contextualize in the sense of having lived the history of the two waves of feminism, the second that most characterize the thinking and perspective and lived experience of the notorious RBG. So this is exciting for me, certainly. And we are going to, in addition to the numerous guests that Tom mentioned, pursue some of the younger attorneys, at least one, who were inspired by her and who during the course of their training actually took courses from faculty members. I'm thinking of Shivani Agarwal in particular, who got her law degree in 2017 at Harvard, and took a course with Catherine McKinnon and another course with Martha Minow. And I believe that the course she took with Catherine McKinnon was entitled Feminist Law. So that's a more contemporary perspective for sure than the one that really framed RBG's work. And I just want to mention that we're not only going to share with you professional perspectives, both in terms of the law and the history of feminism, but we're going to have a special guest appearance by someone's piece of local artist piece of art inspired in honor of RBG. It's a, what? I'm trying to think.
Don't give it away. Don't give it away.
Okay, I won't. You have to join us to see.
The secret, you have to sign up for the class.
Yes.
To find out. Thank you both so much. That sounds extraordinary. Next up, I'd like to welcome Paul Gluck. Paul and his wife, Joan, have been recognized as one of the top 100 art collectors in the United States, with a focus on, oh good, and Joan's here too, I wasn't sure. There they are. They are both also medical doctors and OLLI members. Pieces from their collection were featured in the Berkshire Museum's 2016 exhibit, Finding Raven, Art and Stories from the Northwest Coast. They are teaching a wonderful course called First Nations Art, Culture, and Myths on Monday mornings at 9:30. Welcome.
Thanks, Megan. Just a little bit more in the way of background. Joan's undergraduate degree was from the University of Pennsylvania in anthropology, and University of Pennsylvania arguably is one of the top institutions for study of anthropology. I got my bachelor's degree at MIT, but my undergraduate minor was art history. So this brings our two interests together and has been a lifelong passion of ours, and built a collection over the last 50 years that has been the subject not only of the Berkshire Museum exhibit, as Megan mentioned, but two other museum exhibits. The central premise of this course that we're going to teach is that the environment in which a culture starts influences and forms the culture. And from the cultures, then comes the art. And so we'll be able to follow this thread, environment, culture, and the art and ritual and stories through the lens of three different and very different First Nation tribes. The Northwest Coast, which is several different tribes, the Hopi of the Southwest, and the Navajo, which live close to the Hopi, but have some very distinct differences.
And when you think about the art, I know most people think about what they see when they look at something, but there's also the meaning that you can get if you really understand what comes behind the art. And as an example, if you think of a painting that has a giant boat with pairs of animals going onto the boat, it's an interesting picture, but when you know the story behind it, it gives it a great deal more meaning. And when we talk about these pieces from the Native Americans, you will see that those also have a tremendous amount of meaning. Visually, they're very interesting, but they become more important, more meaningful if you can understand what comes behind them. They all tell stories. So as an example, just to whet your appetite, from our collection, and most of the things that we'll show you will be from our collection. This is what's called a raven rattle from the Northwest Coast. And you can see there's all kinds of things on it. It's a bird with a man on the top and a preacher sitting on top of the man, and there's a bird on the bottom. And it's an iconic piece of Northwest Coast art, and nobody really knows what it means. And I will tell you the story when we have the class that I discovered when I researched at the Library of Congress, going back to the original writings of Franz Boas, who worked in this area. So if you join our class, you'll learn more about the art. You'll learn how it comes out of the culture, and the culture is very closely related to the environment. It'll be an interesting class. We hope you join us.
Thank you so much, Drs. Joan and Paul Gluck. I always want to take every single class here at OLLI, which is very difficult to do when you're working full time. But someday I'll be retired and I'll get to take these great classes as well. Next up, it is my pleasure to introduce Steve Tobin, who moderates today's headlines. This class is so popular that they cannot stop meeting. The class ended about over like a month and a half ago, and they still meet every week because the topic of their class is, of course, current events, and there's been an awful lot of them happening in recent weeks, months, years, etc. But we do offer it every semester. This semester is going to be on Tuesday mornings at 9:30 a.m. It has been on Mondays most of this year, but we have several holidays on Mondays in the winter, so we thought Tuesdays would work better. Steve is a retired real estate developer, cultural maven, voracious reader, and current events aficionado. He's an OLLI board member, a member of the OLLI's development committee, and just a wonderful moderator of this course. So please join me in welcoming Steve.
All right. Thank you, Megan, and welcome everybody. So our classes, which is what Megan is describing, is we take whatever the headlines are or whatever the current events are, and this is the one opportunity every week when you come to be able to have a conversation. This is not me talking, this is all of you. and you all have an opportunity to express your opinions on all the variety of events that happen every week. Needless to say, we never run out of things to talk about. We live in very interesting times, and it's an opportunity for you to do that. Again, we're on Tuesday, 9:30 to 11. I look forward to having all of you there. And Megan, thank you.
Thank you so much, Steve. And that is a very popular class. We have about 50 people. It's a respectful, if you like to have engaged, in-depth, respectful conversations about what's going on in the world, it's a great place to do that. Next up, I'd like to welcome Mary Rogers. Mary is, where did she go? Yeah, there she is. She has an honors, wait, let me see this a little bit better. Yes, an honors AB in philosophy and English from the University of Toronto, an MA in English from Seton Hall University, and an MA and an ABD in medieval studies at the University of Toronto. She's a collector of degrees, so of course, and she's a wonderful instructor who focuses on medieval literature. I'm looking for you now so I can spotlight you. Where did you go? Oh, there you are. Thank you, thank you. There's so many folks here. And she is teaching a class called the Arthurian Romances of Chrétien de Troyes, Armor versus Amour in 12th century France. This is a class limited to 20 students. And the last time I looked, there were 17 people signed up. So if you fall in love with this class today, I recommend you sign up for it today as well. Welcome, Mary.
Thank you, Megan. Well, I hope that anyone who wants to come will be able to get in. The course is on the very beginning of Arthurian literature as we know it. Chrétien de Troyes wrote romances about Arthur's court. And in the 12th century, it's late 12th century, he was shifting the focus from Arthur as a military hero and a conqueror, which had been the way he was depicted in chronicles. And he created this romance form, which concentrates, instead of on Arthur, on the individual knights of his round table and their own quests. And so he's turning inward. He looks at the struggles of individual knights trying to satisfy, they go out on quests instead of on conquest. And they have to live up to the relatively newly developing code of chivalry, which each knight embodies and comes to terms with in his own way. There are 5 romances that we have from Chrétien. We will be doing 4 of them. Only 3 of these 4 did he complete. The 5th one that we're not doing, he didn't complete either. And that's the one on Percival and the Holy Grail, but that's just too complicated, a whole ball of wax. So what we're going to be looking at is the ways in which the needs of chivalric prowess and the needs of being a good courtly lover can be balanced in courtly society, but always, 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 the focus is on the court, and the knights go out from the court, and then they come back to the court. And the 4 that we will be doing, you probably will have heard of Lancelot, the Knight of the Cart, which will be the 3rd one we're doing. And we will be doing Yvain, which is also known as the Knight of the Lion. And that one is also relatively familiar. The first 2, one is Eric, or Eric and Enid. And that one did have some afterlife in other romances. The second one we're doing brings the court of the Greek emperor, the court of Constantinople, into the ambience of Arthur's court. And so it's quite unusual, and it has no analogs later. It wasn't picked up on. So it'll be up to you to see whether you think that it deserved an afterlife or not. But mostly we will be looking at the adventures, what they do, how this reflects the culture of the late 12th century and the courts where Chrétien was operating and working. So it's a lot going on, and it should be a lot of fun. And I hope that you will enjoy it. See you there. Thanks, Megan.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Mary. It sounds like a wonderful class. And again, there's only a few spaces left. So if you do want to sign up, I encourage you to do so soon. And next up, I'd like to introduce Richard Maturo. And Richard, if you can turn your video on. Whoops, where'd you go? There you are. Richard is the chair of OLLI's literature committee and is a published author of numerous newspapers and 6 novels. He holds a doctorate in English with a specialization in Shakespeare and Greek mythology. And after 16 years at the Albany Times Union, he taught literature at the University of Albany for 14 years. He has been doing a series of online classes focusing on his novels, which he reads aloud, and it sounds like a wonderful way to spend the afternoon, and he'll tell you more about that. Dr. Maturo.
Thank you, Megan. This is actually my 11th year as an OLLI literature instructor. And for most of those years, I was teaching subjects such as Shakespeare and Homer, but it was the pandemic that caused me to try something different. And so for the last 6 months, especially since a lot of our entertainment venues have disappeared, I've been reading my own novels. I have some experience as an actor. And so I do a dramatic reading. I read the entire novel over 6 segments with time at the end of each class for general discussion. It's sort of a cross between an audiobook and a book discussion group, with this difference: you've got the author there. So if there's something you particularly like, or if there's something you particularly don't like, you can get it off your chest right then and there. And I do encourage all participants to be as candid as possible. It's also a chance to discuss writing from the inside and to get the writer's perspective on the novel itself and on the creative process. Now, for the winter semester, I'll be reading a novel called Leslie, which was published by Livingston Press in 2008. Leslie is 43, a librarian, unmarried, and there is a description of the plot in the OLLI catalog online, but I thought I would just read the brief publisher's blurb on the flyleaf. A full ship and homeward bound is the phrase from Moby Dick that Leslie uses to describe how it should be at her age. Marriage, family, a satisfying career, a fulfilling life. But she has none of those things. Like Ahab, she is still an empty ship and outward bound. A misfit, the normal pleasures of life having eluded her, she sets off on a quest, but her white whale is a lost love and a lost era that vanished 25 years before. In her modern odyssey, Leslie travels far from home, confronts monsters of her own imagining, and suffers defeat, disappointment, and despair. Then, like all those who have ventured into the landscape of myth, she returns transformed into the thing she both sought and feared. The course will be Wednesday afternoons from 1:30 to 3, beginning on January 27th. By the way, there is no need to sit at the computer the whole time. I encourage participants to turn up the volume and move about, make your afternoon tea, Start your cocktail hour early. And you only need to come back to the computer when the discussion starts. Mainly, it's a time to relax and enjoy. So I hope to see you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Richard. That always just sounds so amazingly relaxing. Again, it's one of those things I wish I could do. All of the classes are. Now I'd like to introduce Anne Berman, who will be teaching Richard II, Shakespeare's Richard II, on Thursday mornings at 9:30 a.m. And Anne is newly moved to the Berkshires, and we're so fortunate to have her here. She holds a Master of Arts in Shakespeare Studies from King's College London, and spent 30 years as a teacher and administrator at the Dover Sherborne Public Schools, and 8 years as a course facilitator in lifelong learning at Regis College in Weston, Massachusetts. So she comes from another lifelong learning institute, and we welcome her with open arms. Thank you so much for being here, Anne.
Thank you, Megan. I usually like to teach the connection in Shakespeare between the page and the stage, and always connect my courses to a local production. I did that when I lived outside of Boston, and I had hoped to do it here. But since there are no stage productions going on, I thought this time I would just teach my favorite Shakespeare play. So I'm going to be doing Richard II, not Richard III. Richard II's a different bad king. And although the play still concerns usurpation of power, the part that I really like about this play is that it really deals with family alliances, and how when the power and the alliances shift, how do the different characters in the family relate to those changes. As you may know, Richard II gets usurped by his first cousin, who becomes Henry IV, but there's a third first cousin here, the Duke of Aumerle, who also is involved in the play. And recent productions, a number of them, have changed Aumerle's role in the play, and in a really significant way. And so one of the things we'll be looking at is how different directors have put that change into the play, how they support that change, and whether we, as audience members, think that it's a reasonable change that's been made. Because we don't have a stage production to look at, there are a number of great film versions, and we'll be looking hopefully at pieces of multiple versions, but if that gets to be too technologically challenging, we'll just be looking at one version during several of the class sessions. We'll also be looking at background. We'll be looking at the 14th century when the real Richard lived. We'll be looking at the 16th century when Shakespeare wrote the play, and we'll be looking at the 21st century and how these recent directors have used the play to make whatever points we may think they've been making, especially by altering this one piece about how Aumerle is used. I love this play because of the language. I love it because some of the characters get to be really snarky. They're also wonderful speeches. And what was great when I taught Lear last semester is I had the King Lear players, and I hope that we'll have some Richard II players who will read aloud in class and help make the language come alive for us all. We will go through 1 act a week. This is going to be a 5-week class. And if you are interested in signing up, I hope that you will get, if you can, get the Folger library version, because every text of Shakespeare plays are a little bit different. And if you have the Folger version, it'll be much easier to follow along as we work through the text. I hope that if you're interested in Shakespeare and you're interested in following along with this play, that you'll join us. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Anne. Next up, I'd like to introduce Peter Blum, who is a former OLLI president and also a co-moderator of the Science Conversations class. And do you want, Peter, do you want Tony up here with you as well?
Sure, if you can do it.
Yes, I'm getting so adept at these things.
The Science Conversation class, Tony and I have co-taught summer and winter for a number of years. The protocol of the class is that we ask our participants to buy the Tuesday New York Times, which many of you know has a supplement on science. And then we all read the science supplement, or at least major parts of it. And we get together on Friday to discuss whatever is on people's mind. It's really a moderated conversation class more than an instructor class. We have some expertise up at the front of the room. Tony is a retired neurosurgeon, and I am a amateur physicist of some sort. And we cover whatever's in the paper. Often the discussion spends a lot of time on medical issues. Tony's very good, and we stay highly entertained by his comments on various things. And then occasionally I supplement by bringing in articles about science, usually physics or astronomy. And we have some very loyal followers in the class. We usually have 20 to 30, and they contribute a great deal. There's a lot of expertise among our students, or it wouldn't be half as good as it is. And Tony is going to speak next. I guess Megan will introduce him for the next course. Tony, do you want to add anything about Science Conversations?
Sure. Peter and I moderate, and I think we're competent. It's the class that makes the audience, which makes the class. As Peter's saying, we have retired or even practicing MDs. We have high school teachers of science and physics. We have people who've worked in industry, engineers. So it's a really terrific class, and they keep it going, and we're very thankful for them because that's what makes it go. Oh, you want me to talk about
Sure, yeah, so we'll segue. Thank you so much, Peter. And Tony, if you just want to say a little bit about the Advances in Medicine class, and then we'll have Sharon, who is one of the, you're moving somewhere. It's very exciting.
Yeah, I had written down about the science, and then I walked into the other room, so I'm now walking back.
It's the live cam effect.
Yes, Advances in
Medicine.
Medicine.
Getting a little dizzy.
It's been going now, I think, probably 7 or 8 years. I'd have to look back. Who is the official historian of OLLI? We should have one.
That is a good question.
I don't have to look back, and you can just consult these people. Basically, the idea was to ask people in practice or just who had just left practice to talk about their specialty and tell us what goes on in it. Some of them have done the history of the specialty or the history of the subject they were covering, which is also very interesting to learn that people have been thinking of these problems for 1,000 years. Was always interesting. So the idea was to have 3 speakers, 2 weeks each, the usual an hour for 40 minutes of Q&A. This year, because of some misunderstanding and a wealth of speakers, we actually have a 7-week course, 3, 2, and 2 for the talkers. We start with Dr. Len Siegel, who was on the faculty at Robert Wood Johnson in New Jersey, retired up here, and then joined the faculty, the immunology and arthrology practice at BMC. And it's interesting, he was going to talk about his normal academic subject. And then with COVID around and developments about drugs that work, and even more interesting, the drugs that don't work for COVID, he's going to talk from the point of view of his experiences working with industry in drug development. And he did this for a few years with leading drug companies. And he's going to talk about drug development, drug aiming at specific targets, putting them on the market, testing, and everything that is so relevant today. And his second subject is psoriatic arthritis, which is the arthritis that people get with psoriasis. I remember when I was a medical student, we saw psoriasis for which there was virtually no treatment, but we always thought that the arthritis was very rare. If you watch the adverts at television at about 9:30 at night, every 9th person must have psoriatic arthritis from the number of adverts that you see. Absolutely. And that is a widespread disease, apparently. And he's going to talk about that. Then we're lucky to get Dr. Sharon Nash, who was a pathologist at Bay State.
And Sharon's here, so she'll be able to talk about what she's going to be talking about too.
She is so brilliant, she decided she wants to move to the Berkshires. What can I tell you? And it's only 2 feet of snow out here. It's very lovely. I've been watching my wife shovel it all day. It's really tough for her. And she's going to talk about 2 subjects. One is obesity. And if you think that's easy to treat, I'll just recommend you the number of diets and methods done to do it. There's no such thing as a diet for obesity. I don't think I'm stealing any of her information. And the other treatments, which are both surgical and medical. And the second one is one that really is relevant to us older people, which is colorectal cancer, one which is not completely, I won't say removable, but can be diagnosed early and interfered with if you have the correct system and the correct advertising for patients. I'm looking forward to that. And the last 2 talks are from Jeffrey Leppo, who is a cardiologist, I think, at Bay State. And he's going to talk about 2 things. One is the evaluation and treatment of coronary artery disease. And if some of you are shaking your heads and thinking that you don't have it and it's no problem, there were studies done in soldiers killed in the Second World War. And these were 22, 23, 24-year-olds. And every single one of them had some changes in their coronary arteries. They had early atherosclerosis. So,
well, on that happy note.
The second lecture is on treatment for what he calls valves, plumbing, and structural. That is, the valves are the blockage and the opening between the various chambers of the heart and the output from the heart, particularly the aorta, the vessels being the coronary arteries, and the treatment there, both surgical, and then the structural problems, that is those with which were born due to the development or the maldevelopment of the heart. So I would think there'd be, to put it mildly, something for everybody. And if you can't find the disease that you have or your nearest and dearest have here, you're very strange.
Thank you so much, Tony. And Tony has been curating this class for many years. And one of the best parts of it is his exquisitely dry English humor that permeates everything he does. It's a lot of fun. And we're very lucky to have one of the doctors who will be speaking here today, Dr. Sharon Nash. She's a recently retired pathologist. And more importantly, she is a new and very enthusiastic OLLI member. I have gotten the most wonderful emails from her after every class. She just loves OLLI so much. And we're very grateful to have her here. She received her medical education in Mumbai, India, completed her residency in pathology in Calgary, Canada, did a fellowship in gastric and hepatic pathology at Harvard Medical School and Brigham and Women's Hospital in Boston, and is a published author in her field. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Nash.
Thank you, Megan. And I want to start really by thanking OLLI, the officers, the board, the instructors, your staff, Megan. You saved my sanity this year. And for one thing, if it hadn't been for the pandemic, you would not have been Zooming and I couldn't have joined you. So I'm very grateful. Thank you very much. The second thing I want to say is that this group of OLLI members are so impressive I'm sure they know what a pathologist is and what a pathologist does, but in case they don't, I just wanted to say that a pathologist is not usually involved in direct patient care. We provide indirect patient care, which means that we give answers to your physicians, be they gastroenterologists or pulmonologists or cardiologists, and we can either look at tissues under the microscope or cells, or we can be supervising labs that provide testing on fluids and sputum and urine and blood. And of course, we also perform autopsies. So my two topics are because I have been interested primarily in gastrointestinal and hepatic pathology. And the talk on obesity sort of evolved because of the pathologies associated with obesity, which happen to be a lot of GI and liver problems. I was also interested in obesity because in the last 2 years of my practice as a pathologist, I joined the community benefit group at Mercy Medical Center, and we were involved in teaching local high school students about the kinds of behaviors that can prevent chronic diseases. And we talked about smoking and obesity. So that's where my obesity talk comes from. And I'm going to talk about the problem as it exists in the US as well as around the globe, the causes and the costs of obesity. I will show some pictures, and I hope everyone is willing to look at some gross photos. I think they're wonderful, but I'm hoping no one has a problem with them. Please let me know if you do. And then we'll talk about, as Tony says, therapies, which include behavior modifications, medical therapies, and surgical therapies. And my second talk is on colorectal cancer. And this must shock most people who have so many other interests, but I find this a very interesting topic. Primarily because when I got into pathology 40 years ago, we all thought colon cancer was one disease and you did surgery and you either responded or you didn't. But thanks to molecular biology, we know so much more now. And we have had therapies that have been developed based on the molecular biology of colon cancer that I think I would love to share with you. I hope to be educational, informative, but also entertaining. So thank you, Tony and Gordon and Megan and Barbara, for this opportunity.
Thank you, Sharon. You make it all sound wonderful, even if it might be a little gory and so forth. But it's about us. It's about our bodies and what happens with them. So it's important to know. So next up, I would like to introduce Linda Halpern, and I believe Phil Halpern is with her as well. They are both here to talk about a class called, there they are, to talk about a class called Around the World in 90 Minutes. One of the sad things about COVID and the pandemic is that those of us who love to travel have not had much of a chance to this past year. So the Social Science Committee decided to put together a course where you could travel to a different country or countries every week, and OLLI members and instructors volunteered to provide an in-depth tour. And Phil and Linda will be presenting on Israel. And I just want to mention that I think that there is a movement afoot to also add an extra class to do it to 7. Huh? I'm sorry, Linda? Oh,
no, thank you, Megan.
Anyway, so to add an extra class where OLLI members can submit images and stories from their travels too. That's in the works. It's not a done deal yet, but we'll see. I think that sounds really wonderful. To introduce Linda and Phil, Linda is a member of the Social Science and the Literature Committee, and Phil taught a series of amazing OLLI classes for us that personally I missed dearly. There was the history of 20th century American comedy. I think, did we have 3 or 4 of those classes?
There were 3 of them, Megan.
3 of them, yes. And we're hoping for more someday when Phil has the time and inclination. So it's so nice to see you both and to welcome you here.
Well, thanks. Actually, Megan, you've made it easy for me and Phil because you've said a lot of the things that we were going to let our members know about. So we're delighted to welcome everybody to Around the World in 90 Minutes. This class will be on Tuesdays from 1:30 to 3. And as Megan said, travel's obviously restricted for all of us these days. So this course is meant to be an escape virtually to all the corners of the globe. And our presenters will share their own experiences in such far-flung places as Mexico, Scotland, Japan, Gabon and South Africa, and South America. Megan mentioned as well that Phil and I will be sharing our experience in Israel. So you'll enjoy information in all of these places about the various cultures and places of interest, and there will be lots of photos. There is going to be a special bonus feature, which is that additional class. If you have your own travel photos, you'll be invited to share just a few during an added session, which will be at the end of the course. No? Okay. So that's it.
I love that. Phil?
We hope you'll all join us.
Wonderful. Thank you both so much. I think that's going to be just a lovely course to just relax and enjoy. And after the challenging year that we've had, I think it's just perfect. And it's one of the most popular classes actually, as far as people signing up for it. So I think that is going to be a lot of fun. Thank you. And finally, last but not least whatsoever, we have Patsy Gay and Norton Owen from Jacob's Pillow. And for those of you here who are from the Berkshires, you of course know what Jacob's Pillow is, but we may have folks on here from elsewhere. And for them, we want to let you know that Jacob's Pillow is an absolutely incredible center for dance, internationally recognized and celebrated in what is it? It's like, what's this? Oh, National Historic Landmark also. So this is, if you have any interest in dance at all, and even if you don't, the beauty of OLLI is, even if you don't know anything about a topic, we have such wonderful instructors that the deep dive with people who love the subject so much makes it a pleasure to learn. And this will truly be the case with this class on the past, present, and future of Jacob's Pillow. And the other interesting thing about this class, there's many of them, of course, is that this class will be held in the evening. So it's Wednesdays at 7 p.m. So please, and I also have bios for you guys, but I will do that real quick. Norton Owen is a legend in the Berkshires. He is a curator, writer, and archivist with more than 45 years of professional experience in the dance field. He's been associated with Jacob's Pillow since 1976 and has been director of preservation since 1990. And think about how difficult it is to preserve a medium like dance. He oversees the Pillow Talk series as well as projects involving documentation, exhibitions, audience engagement, and archival issues. And Patsy is the associate archivist at Jacob's Pillow, where she is integrally involved in interpreting the festival's history for scholars, researchers, artists, and the general public, both on-site and online. They have an incredible online archive, which just in time for the pandemic to enjoy. Patsy has a MA in American Dance Studies at FSU and an MSLIS at Pratt Institute, and I have no idea what that is. What is that, Patsy?
It's a Master's of Science in Library and Information Science. So I have dance history and library science coming together.
Perfect. Welcome.
Well, thanks so much, Megan. I think that what we want to cover in this course because we've titled it Jacob's Pillow in 3D. And of course, it's unusual because we will really be in 2D since we'll be Zooming rather than in person. But our idea about the 3D is that we are going to be focusing on the pillow's history from 3 different vantage points. Mine, of course, but I've done 2 OLLI courses in the past. So coming back to this another time around, I wanted to have some reinforcements, let's say, and also to show that it is not just through my eyes, but through other people's vantage points as well. So we have 5 sessions that we'll be doing starting on January 20th, Wednesday the 20th, and going through February 17th. And we're divvying them up so that I'll be doing the first and last one. I'm first going to do an incredibly quick overview of 50 years of pillow history in our first session. And then I'll be handing it off to Patsy. And then later in the series, we'll be bringing in Pamela Tadji, our director. So what we are hoping to do through organizing it this way is not just to do a boring history, not that any history of the pillow would be boring because there's so much vitality in it, but that we would be breaking it down in ways that really bring it alive for people. We'll be using a lot of imagery and footage that we can use, and we'll also be referring to my book, A Certain Place, History of Jacob's Pillow as well. So with that, I want to ask Patsy for her to give us a brief overview of what she'll be covering in her 2 sessions.
Thanks, Norton. Yeah, you know, the OLLI family is so important to us during the summer festival. We always love having the groups visit us on our campus. And so it's really meaningful in this, you know, new and different time that we're in, that we're participating in this online Zoom version of the OLLI programming. I'll be coming in to talk about the sort of late 1980s to mid 2010s, when there was a lot of really exciting happenings on the Pillow's grounds in the artistic programming, changes like the Inside Out stage being built, our beloved and sadly missed Doris Duke Theater coming into fruition. And so I'll be talking about lots of things that were happening over those periods, and then handing it off to Pamela Tadji, who will be talking about her tenure in these past recent years. Really excited to be connecting to our virtual programming. We have lots of online engagement, but also because you have the Pillow archivists here, you'll be able to see some exclusive things that are normally only seen on the Jacob's Pillow grounds in our archives. So excited to be bringing those to the OLLI community.
Yeah, exactly. So just finally, to wrap up, I want to give a shout out to Betsy Selkowitz for bringing us into this. And of course, also to you, Megan, who puts it all together, which is miraculous. So we're really happy to be part of this group and hope that we'll see a lot of you signing up for our course.
Wonderful. Thank you guys so much. It sounds really, again, wonderful. And I think that, you know, one of the silver linings of having to be online is that we do have more folks from other parts of the country. So it's a really exciting opportunity for them to learn about Jacob's Pillow in case they're not aware of it. So those are our presentations from Winter instructors, and we welcome any questions or comments you might have about any of them or anything else. You can put that in the chat. And then I want to also welcome Monica Sinclair and Ellen Quabier to the stage, as it were, to just say hello and talk about some of the wonderful benefits about OLLI membership. So in order to take classes, you do need to become a member first to sign up, but there's other wonderful things about OLLI membership as well. So Monica, do you want to start? And I'm going to bring up Ellen also.
Sure. I'm going to start, and then I'm going to hand over to Ellen. Welcome. Ellen and I are co-chairs of the membership committee, and Our job is to make every potential member and member of OLLI feel welcome, included, and part of our community. We, as well as all the fabulous classes that you've heard about today, OLLI actually allows you to do all sorts of other things as being part of that community. We have special events, and we've pivoted pretty interestingly to some very interesting special events. For example, one of my favorites was a Zoom cooking class that we did with one of our local restaurants. So we have a number of special events. We have guest speakers, people who talk on a huge variety of topics, and it'll just be a single presentation on politics or medicine or all manner of different subjects. We also have, and something that's near and dear to both Ellen and my hearts, the shared interest groups, which are small groups that get together on a regular basis you can determine however often you want to meet on specific areas that are of interest to different groups of people. So for example, I chair a French conversation shared interest group, not because I speak French particularly well, but because I love the language and I try and bring together other people that love French and all things French, the language and the culture. We also have a knitting and needlepoint shared interest group, a number of book clubs. We have a new poetry reading shared interest group, a play reading shared interest group. So a huge variety. And I recommend to any of you that you go to the OLLI website and you can find a list of all the shared interest groups, and and I'm sure actually somebody in the office can put you in touch with the people responsible for those groups and who can talk to you more about it. One other thing I wanted to mention is next Monday is the winter solstice. And Ellen and I thought it might be kind of fun to celebrate that, just as something different from all the other holidays going on right now. And so we are organizing just a little get together where we're going to set up a Zoom chat, and we can bring a drink or a cup of tea and some kind of nice edibles and just get together, catch up with each other, chat, talk to new people, meet new people, talk to existing friends, just spend 30, 45 minutes together online next Monday at our winter solstice party. And Ellen, I'm going to hand over to you and you can fill in the gaps of things I forgot to mention and add your own frills.
Well, thanks, Monica. There isn't too much that you've forgotten, which is why it's such a pleasure to co-chair the membership committee with you. And of course, thanks to Megan and the rest of the OLLI staff who do, as you've already heard, an incredible job setting up all of these events. The one thing I do want to mention about the winter solstice coming up on Monday is that it's, on the one hand, intended to be a social event. You don't have to do any prep for this. There will not be any quizzes, so no homework, as Megan says. It's going to be a lot of fun. And on that note, we do encourage everyone to attend. If there are a large number of people, we'll be doing breakout rooms so that you'll get to speak to other people individually. But we really would like everyone, not just new members, to attend this. And again, it's just another way to connect with the community, the OLLI community, and the greater community. So we hope you'll attend that. The other thing that I would like to say, sorry about that, is
there's somebody calling to sign up now.
I hope so. I hope so. I so quick, those responses. On behalf of Deborah Kane, who is the facilitator of the Contemporary Gender Roles SIG, Shared Interest Group, who couldn't be with us today, I just wanted to mention that, again, that is one of the many SIGs that we offer. Contemporary Gender Roles SIG, hard to say that 5 times fast, is an opportunity to discuss, and it is just that, it's a discussion group to talk about how gender roles have been and will continue to change going forward. So we talk about the roles of women, we talk about the roles of men, we talk about the gay community, and as a matter of fact, and also transsexuals. We are going to be discussing this Monday a book by Jan Morris, who was one of the, who was a terrific writer, and who will be discussing, unfortunately she's passed away now, but her journey as a transsexual. That will be our SIG meets on Mondays for a couple of hours. We encourage men to join the SIG as well as women. And that's all I think I need to say about that. There is information, as Monica's already said, about the shared interest groups on the berkshireolli.org website. So we look forward to seeing your smiling faces, and please bring your smiling faces on Monday to the winter solstice event. It's our first. We hope it won't be our last, and we hope to see you there. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Monica. Thank you, Ellen, so much. And if you're looking to get involved with OLLI and join a committee, I highly recommend their committee. They have a lot of fun and do a lot of great work for OLLI. And I did put the link to RSVP for the solstice soiree this Monday in the chat, along with the list of shared interest groups, and both of those are benefits of OLLI membership. They are member events, and the shared interest groups are free and open to all OLLIs to attend, and they are organized by members themselves. So if you want to start a new shared interest group on something that you'd love to talk with other people about, whether some OLLIs around the country have shared interest groups just around the Weekly New Yorker to talk about the articles and possibly the cartoons as well. That's possible. Just reach out to us and let us know, and what we'll do is help you organize it, put the word out to members, we'll help you with the Zoom and so forth. So it's another way to gather people together. So thank you to all of our winter instructors who came here today, took time to come out and share with you more information about their classes. Thank you to Barbara Lane, our fabulous OLLI president, and our board of directors for all the good work they do. And a very, very special thank you to our 4 curriculum committees who do the hard work of organizing, finding wonderful instructors and organizing the semesters and putting everything together. And in fact, I think 3 of them were also instructors and talking about the classes here today. So Ginny O'Leary, Richard Maturo, and Tony Siegel are all both OLLI instructors, and they also serve as curriculum chairs. So everyone have a good night, stay safe, stay warm, and we hope to see you in an OLLI class this winter, starting in January. Bye-bye.